Welcome to episode 1 of the Ulysses Unlocked podcast, where we analyze Ulysses by James Joyce one page at a time. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. And welcome to this deep dive.
Our mission today, well, it's to really unearth the incredible layers hidden right there in the very first lines, the first characters of James Joyce's huge novel, Ulysses.
It's quite a task.
It is. And look, we're not just reading the pages casually. We're aiming for a shortcut, really, to being deeply informed. We're guided by insights from, critical analyses, dedicated readings, annotated versions of the novel itself. We've got a good stack of sources here, including those really insightful discussions from Frank Delaney's Rejoice series, which I think helped so many people get into this book, plus, more recent academic notes, too.
Yeah, indeed. It's a real privilege, actually, to start this journey into Ulysses with you. And what our sources consistently show is how even those very first words are just absolutely packed.
Right.
Packed with historical weight, literary echo, symbolic meaning. It's dense.
Incredibly dense. And those early analyses, like Frank Delaney, as you mentioned, published, over a decade ago now, they really hammer home how Joyce just throws you, the reader, straight into a world that demands, almost forensic attention from the get-go.
You're kidding.
So today, we'll be looking really closely at how Joyce introduces these key characters, how he sets the scene, and how he starts weaving that incredibly complex tapestry of themes that, define the whole book.
And all within what looks like, on the surface anyway, just a simple morning routine in a tower.
Exactly. A Martello Tower breakfast. Seems simple.
Okay, let's unpack this opening then, because like you say, simple it is not. Right from sentence 1, we get one of the novel's most, certainly memorable and provocative figures, Buck Mulligan. The text opens. Stately, plump Buck Mulligan came from the stairhead, bearing a bowl of lather on which a mirror and a razor lay crossed. I mean, it's such a vivid picture, isn't it? Almost theatrical.
It really is.
But our sources are suggesting this isn't just, here's a character. It's more, it's a performance, a parody even.
Oh, absolutely. It's a performance. What's fascinating is how Joyce crafts Mulligan's entrance. It's not just an introduction. It's like this deliberate, almost sacred ritual that he then immediately starts, desecrating.
Okay.
We see Mulligan described with those very specific words, stately, plump. He's not just walking. He came from the stairhead, so he's ascending, almost like a priest processing. Right.
Yeah.
Holding that bowl of shaving lather aloft. It's not casual, it's ceremonial, it's priestly.
Holding it high.
Exactly. And the visual itself, the bowl with that mirror and razor crossed on top, you immediately think of a chalice, maybe priestly vestments from a Catholic mass. It's an instant visual cue for, sacrilege.
Right.
Turning the everyday act of shaving into this mock religious ceremony.
I see what you mean. It's like he's setting a stage, isn't he? Not just starting his day.
Right.
And the performance, the theatricality, it doesn't stop with just how he looks or moves, does it?
Not at all.
Because once Mulligan actually opens his mouth, the parody of the ritual becomes even more obvious. He intones this incredibly loaded Latin phrase, Introibo ad altare Dei, which translates as, I will go in unto the altar of God. Now, for anyone listening who might not recognize it immediately, that's word for word from the very beginning of the Catholic Mass, the priest's opening line.
The absolute start.
Exactly. So by having Mulligan say this, Joyce instantly turns him into this mocking priest figure. It sets up this clear theme of, blasphemy right from the start. A challenge to religious authority that just runs through the whole book.
It really does. And, if we connect this to the bigger picture, that seemingly straightforward Latin phrase, Introibo, it holds this clever, almost hidden double meaning that lots of readers and critics have pointed out.
Oh, interesting. What's that?
Well, for people who might not be familiar with the Latin Mass, the word on the page, Introibo, it can easily be misread or maybe misheard as in Troy.
In Troy.
Exactly. And our sources, especially the ones looking at Joyce's wordplay, they really stress this isn't just a coincidence, it's deliberate. It immediately signals this deeper, ancient layer to the whole story,
Right.
drawing a direct line between this tower in Dublin and, one of the foundational epics of Western culture. That little pun in Troy connects the opening scene, the Martello Tower, straight to the Trojan War, specifically Homer's Ilium, the city of Troy. It's like with the very first, spoken word, effectively, Joyce is already saying, look at this modern Dublin scene through the lens of ancient epic.
In Troy. That's brilliant. It just snaps you right out of 1904 Dublin and throws you into this this ancient world.
Hmm.
But it gets even more specific, doesn't it? Because Mulligan himself, he's not just in this symbolic Troy. He seems to actually embody a key figure from the myth.
That's right.
His physical description is, well, it seems incredibly precise for this purpose.
Right.
His face is described as equine in its length.
Course-like, yeah.
Exactly. And his hair is grained and hewed like pale oak. Now, these aren't just random details, are they? Our sources show them as direct, unmistakable, symbolic links to the Trojan horse.
The ultimate symbol of deceptive invasion.
Right. It's not just an illusion. It feels like Mulligan is the Trojan horse, this instrument of war and deceit walking down the stairs.
Exactly right. And the layers in those descriptions are just, well, remarkable. That pun on hewed and hewed is particularly clever.
Explain that.
Okay, so hewed obviously refers to the color, the pale oak color of his hair. But hewed, H-E-W-E-D, strongly suggests the act of cutting down trees, doesn't it?
Like building the horse.
Precisely. The very act needed to build that massive wooden horse. And at the same time, it carries that darker echo of cutting down the Trojans themselves, because the horse led to their slaughter.
Okay, well, that's dark.
It is. And then there's that seemingly minor detail, the razor, mentioned right back in the first sentence. The original text actually calls it a cutthroat razor.
Right, I remember that.
Now, what's important here, as our sources point out, is that safety razors were available in 1904. They existed. But Joyce deliberately chose the more menacing cutthroat detail.
So it's a conscious choice.
Absolutely. It's not just style. It's a direct, almost chilling reminder of the silent, brutal slaughter of Troy's warriors inside their own walls, throats cut while they slept, victims of the very horse that Mulligan now seems to symbolize. Gives a really unsettling edge to something as mundane as a morning shave, implying this sort of latent violence is always there.
And choosing cutthroat when safer options were around.
Yeah.
That really underlines it, doesn't it? It hints at this, pervasive, almost everyday nature of potential violence. Like the threat is just simmering beneath the surface.
Exactly.
And this latent violence, it's not just symbolism, is it? It actually comes out in Mulligan's actions, even during something as normal as making breakfast.
Definitely.
The text describes him with real aggression. He hacked through the fry on the dish, hewing thick slices from the loaf. Hewing again.
There it is again, yeah.
And then, this really disturbing image, he lunged towards his messmates, in turn, a thick slice of bread impaled on his knife.
Like he's stabbing them with breakfast?
It literally says it's like he's slaughtering men,
Yeah.
not serving food. He even growled in a hoarsened, rasping voice as he hewed again vigorously at the loaf. It just transforms this ordinary morning scene into something, well, brimming with symbolic violence.
You're right. The violence isn't just hinted at. It's performed, acted out, and the atmosphere adds to this grim picture. The room, after Mulligan's done with breakfast, it fills with a cloud of coal smoke and fumes of fried grease. That description, it directly evokes the burning of Troy, doesn't it? The smoke, the greasy fumes, like the smoldering ruins after the city fell.
Yeah, you can almost smell it.
And some sources even point out a possible grim pun on grease, maybe linking it to the idea of the city being greased or made slippery for its downfall. Another layer of maybe cynical observation. This whole intricate connection, and scholars like Sinan Maloney have really explored this, suggests that Joyce's Ulysses isn't just about Odysseus' journey back from Troy, the Odyssey.
Right, the homecoming.
It's also about the epic struggle of the war itself, the Iliad. It fundamentally reframes the whole journey we're about to embark on. It embeds the catastrophe that made the return necessary right there in the opening moments.
That's a huge point. It broadens the whole scope right from page 1. It's not just a homecoming story. It's also about the war, the destruction, the betrayal that came before. It's incredible how much Joyce crams into these first few paragraphs.
It truly is. And this idea, this interpretation, it's actually backed up by Joyce himself.
Oh, really?
Yeah, according to his friend Frank Budgeon, Joyce saw Ulysses, the character Odysseus, not just as a returning hero, but also as an inventor, a strategist. He apparently once said something like, the tank is his creation, wooden horse or iron box, it doesn't matter. They are both shells containing armed warriors.
Wow. So connecting ancient strategy to modern warfare.
Exactly. It highlights Joyce's genius in capturing both sides of the hero's story. The longing for home, the Odyssey part, but also the adventure of invasion, the cunning strategy, the Iliad part. It's this huge, all-encompassing vision, and it's astonishingly laid out right here in these first moments, setting the stage for the epic journey through a single day.
Amazing. And as this This mock ritual with Mulligan unfolds. We get our first glimpse of Stephen Dedalus.
Yeah.
And he seems like a complete contrast to Mulligan's,
Hard
loudness.
contrast here.
Mulligan, still playing his role, calls out really coarsely, "Come up, Ginch, come up, you fearful Jesuit," which immediately sets a kind of tone for Stephen, doesn't it? A sense of tension, detachment from Mulligan's whole theatrical display.
Definitely.
Stephen is shown as displeased and sleepy, leaned his arms on the top of the staircase and looked coldly at the shaking, gurgling face that blessed him. It's certainly not a warm, friendly scene, is it?
Not at all. There's a real chill in that description. Stephen's displeased and sleepy mood, combined with that cold look he gives Mulligan, it immediately sets up this dynamic of tension, of intellectual distance between them.
He's observing, not participating.
Exactly. He's watching Mulligan rather than really engaging, already setting himself apart. And that nickname, Kinch, the knife blade, it's intriguing, isn't it?
It is. What do we make of that?
Well, on one hand, it obviously suggests a sharp mind, right? An incisive intellect that cuts through things. But it also, again, continues that subtle undercurrent of violence, of menace that we saw with the Trojan imagery.
Connecting him back to that.
Yeah, it ties Stephen into that symbolic world of conflict. Maybe he's a metaphorical weapon himself. Or maybe just someone who feels constantly sharp, on edge, defensive.
And the other part? Fearful Jesuit.
Right. That refers directly to Stephen's background and, by extension, Joyce's own very complex, often difficult relationship with the Jesuit order. They were known for their rigorous intellectual training, of course, but also for a certain dogmatism, a kind of rigid thinking that Stephen and Joyce himself often rebelled against intellectually.
So he's immediately framed as intellectually sharp, but also struggling with this heavy religious and educational past.
Precisely. From the outset, he's defined by both his intellect and this deep internal conflict.
So Stephen is already defined by all this, even before we really get inside his head. And speaking of getting inside his head, this is a huge moment, isn't it, in literary history?
Yeah.
This is where Joyce really does something new.
Oh, absolutely pivotal. If we connect this to the bigger picture, Stephen's introduction gives us our very first taste of that revolutionary stylistic device Joyce is famous for, the interior monologue. As Mulligan pauses in his performance, with his even white teeth glistening here and there with gold points, a single powerful word appears in the text, seemingly out of nowhere. Chrysostomos.
Chrysostomos, Greek.
Yes, Greek. It means golden mouth, from chrysos for gold and stoma for mouth. But crucially, it's not spoken aloud.
It's a thought.
Exactly. It's a silent internal thought of Stephen's. It's his immediate and pretty damning assessment of Mulligan. He sees the gold fillings, hears the smooth talk, and internally labels him golden-mouthed, a glib speaker. Someone whose words might sound impressive, shiny like gold, but ultimately lack real substance or truth.
So it's his instant critical judgment.
It is an internal act of defining Mulligan as the not I, as the philosopher Fichte might say.
So this one word, Chrysostomos, is not just a random thought. It's a landmark moment for the novel style.
It absolutely is. This word marks the very first appearance of interior monologue in Ulysses, and arguably it fundamentally changed how novelists depicted characters. It's momentous because it takes us directly, without any filter, straight into Stephen's mind.
Right into his head.
Showing us his internal reality, which, as we see immediately, is often sharply opposed to the external world and the people in it. Before this, you rarely saw a character's raw, unfiltered, unspoken thoughts just laid out on the page like that.
It feels very modern even now.
It does. It's not just showing what Stephen says or does. It's literally inviting us into the private, often contradictory process of his thinking. It allows for this incredible psychological realism. And Joyce himself, actually, he gave credit for this technique.
Oh, yeah? To who?
To a French novelist, Édouard Dujardin. Specifically his novel Les Lauriers sont coupés, which came out way back in 1888. Joyce said that book inspired his way of presenting unspoken thoughts so directly.
Interesting. So there's a direct lineage there. And you mentioned Fichte. It's not just a literary trick. There are deeper philosophical ideas at play here too, aren't there? This internal opposition.
Indeed there are. The technique fits perfectly with that philosophical idea from Fichte.
Yeah.
The I poses itself and opposes itself to the not I. It's a key idea about how we form our sense of self, our identity.
Okay, break that down a bit.
Think of it like this. Stephen isn't just passively watching Mulligan. Internally, silently, he's actively saying, I am Stephen Dedalus, and I am not Buck Mulligan. He's drawing a line.
Drawing himself against Mulligan.
Exactly. He's creating this clear intellectual and, you could say, moral boundary against Mulligan's glibness, his theatricality. That opposition, that clear internal separation from the not-I, is fundamental to how Stephen understands himself and his place in the world right from these opening moments.
That's a really powerful way to understand what's going on inside his head. And it's important to be precise with the terms here, too, isn't it? Because while we talk about internal thoughts, Joyce's technique, especially with Stephen, isn't always best described as stream of consciousness, is it?
That's a really crucial clarification, yes. And our sources, like Kevin Birmingham's book, The Most Dangerous Book, help make this distinction clear. Many people use stream of consciousness as a kind of catch-all for internal thoughts in Ulysses, but Birmingham and others argue for more precision, particularly with Stephen.
So what's the difference?
Well, Stephen's thoughts, especially early on, are often better described as a brief assembly of fragments on the margins of the deep. They're often quite analytical, precise, even structured in their own way, even though they're internal.
Not just a random flow.
Exactly. They're not typically a continuous, unpunctuated, free-flowing stream like you might associate with the term. That precision helps us understand Stephen's very intellectual, fragmented, and often critical inner world right from the start. We see these distinct, coherent thoughts, often referencing classics or using specific vocabulary like Chrysostomos,
Okay.
whereas the term stream of consciousness might fit better, perhaps, for a character like Molly Bloom later in the novel, whose famous final section really does immerse us in a more fluid, less logically structured, almost sensory-driven flow of thought. Stephen's internal world, at least here, feels sharper, more analytical.
Got it. The layers just keep building, don't they? So we've got classical allusions, innovative narrative techniques, but even something as basic as a character's name seems loaded with meaning, right?
Yeah.
And all this is still happening against that backdrop of religious provocation we talked about.
Mm.
Mulligan, later on, he even says to Stephen, kind of mockingly, "Your absurd name in ancient Greek," which ironically, while meant as a put-down, actually flags up just how significant Stephen's name really is. It pulls us into even deeper symbolic waters.
It absolutely does. And this raises that important question again. How does Joyce weave these ancient threads, these sacred echoes, into such a modern setting, often with this provocative, almost jarring twist? Let's really break down Stephen's name, because it is just a masterclass in layering symbolism.
Okay.
First, Stephen. The name immediately connects him to Saint Stephen.
The first Christian martyr.
Exactly, suggesting themes of sacrifice, suffering, maybe a struggle for belief, an individual standing against the established order suffering for his convictions. It sets him up as someone potentially marked for suffering or martyrdom.
Heavy stuff. And the surname, Dedalus.
Dedalus, that's a direct lift from Greek mythology.
Yeah.
Daedalus, the master craftsman, the architect who built the labyrinth for the Minotaur on Crete.
Right, and he made wings.
He did. He crafted wings, famously, for himself and his son Icarus so they could escape the island. So this name evokes profound themes: creativity, artistry, intellectual ambition.
But also danger, right? Icarus flew too close to the sun.
Precisely. So it also brings in themes of intellectual hubris, the idea of being trapped, like in the labyrinth, and the inherent danger of ambition, of flying too high. His name alone positions him as this figure of immense artistic aspiration, but also one burdened by potential failure, isolation, and the risk of a fall.
So his name is like a blueprint for his character and his potential story. Caught between martyrdom and myth, suffering and ambition, that's a lot for one character to carry.
It is. And Joyce deliberately connects Stephen to other major figures, too, deepening his archetypal weight. He's positioned like Telemachus, the son in the Odyssey who's searching for his father, Odysseus.
Okay, the father search theme.
Yes, but he's also very much like Hamlet, grappling with a lost father figure. His own father is alive, but distant and disappointing, and his mother has recently died, and also dealing with an unwelcome, usurping presence.
Mulligan being the usurper, like Claudius.
In a way, yes. Just as Hamlet resents Claudius taking his father's place, Stephen seems to resent Mulligan's dominance and intrusion in the tower, which he perhaps feels should be his space. These echoes of Telemachus and Hamlet immediately frame Stephen as this young man deeply preoccupied with his identity, his artistic calling, and his place in a world that feels spiritually empty and maybe even hostile. The lost father, the usurper figure, these weigh heavily on him right from the start.
Okay, beyond the names and the literary echoes, that religious satire is just relentless, isn't it? Mulligan's mock mass at the start wasn't just a one-off joke. It seems to run through everything he does initially.
Oh, it's absolutely persistent. It's a deliberate, ongoing theme. Mulligan continues his blasphemous parody with lines like, "For this, O dearly beloved, is the genuine Christine, body and soul and blood and ounds." Yeah, likely a deliberate, crude corruption of wounds. It's a direct, sacrilegious mockery of the Eucharist, the absolute core sacrament of Christianity, twisting its sacred words into this coarse, dismissive joke about, well, it's implied to be about the shaving bowl, or maybe even himself.
It's pretty shocking.
It is. And then he adds that weird pseudo-scientific detail, a little trouble about those white corpuscles.
Right, what's that about?
It injects this odd, clinical, modern note into the sacred parody. It further desacralizes the ritual, bringing it in biology, and it highlights that tension between emerging scientific ideas and traditional religious belief that was so prevalent in the early 20th century.
It really is powerful stuff, challenging core beliefs. And this kind of thing wasn't just provocative then in 1904 Dublin. It caused genuine outrage when the book was actually published, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Our sources make it clear that even decades later, Joyce's Blasphemy in Ulysses still has the power to shock and provoke. When the novel was first serialized and then published in the early 1920s, these lines, along with other parts deemed irreverent or sexually explicit, were incredibly scandalous.
Jets to bans and things, right?
Exactly. It led to obscenity trials, particularly in the U.S., and the book was banned in several countries for years. It wasn't just seen as harmless irreverence, it was viewed as a profound attack on established beliefs and morality. It forced people to confront faith in a modern, often cynical world. And Joyce, having had that Jesuit education, he knew these rituals inside out. Critics argue he chose these specific liturgical phrases not just for shock value, but to express his own deep disillusionment with the church, almost like a personal rebellion played out literarily.
That context really drives home how radical this book was. But Mulligan, he isn't just a clown or purely a blasphemer, is he? There seems to be more to him, almost a kind of dual nature hinted at in the text.
He certainly isn't simple, no. Beyond being the mocker, the figure of irreverence, Mulligan is also visually linked to religious authority and cultural patronage, which is another really fascinating layer.
How so?
The text describes his face. His plump, shadowed face and sullen oval jowl recalled a prelate, patron of arts in the Middle Ages.
A prelate, like a bishop or cardinal.
Exactly. That detail is incredibly rich. It draws on that historical reality of powerful church figures, popes, cardinals being major patrons of the arts during the Renaissance and Middle Ages. Think of the Medicis, the Borgias. They shaped culture. They supported artists.
Okay, I see.
So this isn't just describing his face, it's adding a symbolic dimension. It suggests Mulligan is more complex than just a jester or Stephen's antagonist. He embodies a certain kind of cultural authority, maybe a charismatic intellectual leader, even while he's simultaneously mocking and undermining that very authority.
So he's both the mocker and the authority figure.
In a strange way, yes. He represents both mockery and a kind of artistic or intellectual leadership, though it's one Stephen clearly views with deep suspicion and detachment. It just shows Joyce's incredible skill at packing significance into tiny details, complicating our view of these characters right from their first appearance. It sets up this really intricate web of relationships and ideas that's going to unfold.
Okay, so what does this all mean for us as we continue this deep dive into Ulysses? I mean, in just the first few pages, Joyce has thrown us into this world that's just teeming with classical echoes, religious parody, brand new narrative techniques, and really deep psychology. We've met the loud, challenging Buck Mulligan, this symbolic Trojan horse, this mocking priest, whose whole being seems like a performance of subversion. And then we've met the quiet, critical Stephen Dedalus, already burdened by his name, grappling with his identity in a world that feels both ancient and aggressively modern.
It truly is remarkable how much Joyce manages to pack into this opening. He immediately sets the stage for a day where, the ordinary becomes mythic, where ancient Greece breathes alongside modern Dublin, and where our inner thoughts, our silent judgments, are just as important, just as real as anything happening outside. He establishes these characters, their incredibly complex relationship, and basically the entire thematic foundation for the novel, all within what seems like a simple breakfast in a tower. What stands out to you, our listener, about these first encounters, these symbols? Because these foundations, they really are crucial for understanding the incredibly rich, dense journey ahead, a journey where, honestly, every single word seems to echo with layers of meaning.
It's absolutely clear that Ulysses demands more than just reading, doesn't it? It requires this active engagement, this detective work with every word, every pun, every historical nod, every myth. As we step through that doorway with Mulligan's blasphemous Introibo ad altare Dei, we have to wonder how many altars, both sacred and profane, both epic and intensely personal, are we truly being invited to approach and maybe even dismantle in this unparalleled journey through just one single day?